The former Yorkshire cricketer at the centre of the racism scandal has given compelling evidence to UK lawmakers. Azeem Rafiq said English cricket is institutionally racist. He also said officials ignored his complaints. China's President Xi has warned the US not to encourage Taiwan's push for independence in the first substantial talk since President Biden took office. Both sides emphasised that the summit was an attempt to ease tension. Polish authorities have fired tear gas and water cannon on migrants massed on the border with Belarus. Thousands of people are stranded on the Poland-Belarus border in makeshift camps in freezing temperatures. And with just over a year until the Football World Cup in Qatar, Amnesty International says migrant workers continue to be exploited as they help to build stadiums for the tournament.
U.S. President Joe Biden and Russian President Vladimir Putin met in Geneva as relations between their countries are at an all-time low. Israeli military aircraft strike Hamas militant targets in the Gaza Strip. The action comes just weeks after a ceasefire to end an 11-day war. Indonesia's Climate and Geophysical Agency warns of aftershocks and a possible tsunami after a 6.1 earthquake hits near the Maluku Islands. And German researchers said Tuesday that Arctic ice is decreasing at a rate faster than earlier believed, while releasing results of a year-long study.
We begin with the United States and China. The current leaders of the two superpowers are seeking to turn a corner after years of tensions. Comprehensive and candid talks have ended with clear differences on Taiwan and human rights, but also an agreement to keep on talking. The summit was held online. U.S. President Joe Biden and Chinese President Xi Jinping kicked off with a vow to cooperate.
Our responsibility as leaders of China and the United States is to ensure that the competition between our countries does not veer into conflict, whether intended or unintended. Just simple, straightforward competition.
The world is facing many challenges. As the world's two largest economies, and as permanent members of the UN Security Council, China and the United States need to increase communication and cooperate.
The White House issued a statement after the talks. It says the leaders discussed the importance of managing competition responsibly. Biden stressed the need for what he called common sense guardrails to avoid conflict and to keep lines of communications open. Biden also raised concerns about China's practices in Xinjiang, Tibet, and Hong Kong, as well as human rights more broadly. On Taiwan, the statement says Biden underscored Washington's strong opposition to unilateral efforts to change the status quo or undermine regional peace and stability. China's foreign ministry says Xi stressed the importance of constructively managing differences and sensitive issues. The ministry says Xi told Biden the complete reunification of China is an aspiration shared by all the country's people. And Xi also reportedly warned of resolute measures if a red line is crossed by what he described as separatist forces for Taiwan. And while Biden and Xi were holding their talks, the U.S. Navy and Japan's Maritime Self-Defense Force were conducting a joint drill in the South China Sea. An MSDF official says the exercise on Tuesday was focused on anti-submarine training, which involved tracking a submarine navigating underwater. The drill included destroyers and patrol planes from the two countries. For the first time, an MSDF submarine also took part. It's unusual for the whereabouts and activities of these submarines to be disclosed. China has been building artificial islands to serve as military bases in the South China Sea. Observers say the drill was designed to underscore the Japan-U.S. partnership and its aim of realizing a free and open Indo-Pacific, but also to keep China in check. The head of South Korea's national police has visited the Takeshima Islands in the Sea of Japan. The islands are known as Tokto in South Korea. Japan's government described the visit as intolerable. South Korea controls the islands. Japan claims them. The Japanese government maintains the islands are an inherent part of Japan's territory. It says South Korea is illegally occupying them. The Korean National Police Agency says Commissioner General Kim Chan-ryong landed on the islands on Tuesday. The Yonhap news agency says the security personnel on the islands were replaced by police officers this year. The agency says Kim offered them words of encouragement before he was taken on an inspection of the islands. Yonhap says the last visit by a police chief was in 2009. Japanese Foreign Minister Hayashi Yoshimasa said the islands are clearly an inherent part of Japan's territory in light of historical facts and based on international law.
We will continue to respond firmly to protect our land, territorial waters, and airspace.
The government has lodged a strong protest with South Korea. North Korea's leader has reportedly visited the site of a new city meant as a template for rural development. The highly symbolic outing marks his first public appearance since last month's weapons show and a series of provocative missile test launches. The Rodon Shinmun newspaper reports Kim Jong-un toured the site of the future Samjeon city. It's near a mountain tied to the North's creation myth. Kim praised the project, raising hopes for an economic revival despite UN sanctions and long months of pandemic isolation. He said the city shows the irresistible will shared by the ruling Workers' Party and its people. Myanmar's military-controlled election commission has brought charges against ousted state councillor Aung San Suu Kyi and 15 other officials regarding the country's general election last November. The commission said in a state-run newspaper the officials, including President Win Min, were involved in improper and unlawful practices in the election. Aung San Suu Kyi's National League for Democracy, or NLD, won the vote by a landslide. The commission accuses the officials of pressuring local governments to enter the names of unqualified people in voter registration books. It also says they interfered with campaigning so the NLD would win. The detained de facto leader has been facing multiple charges, including illegally importing two-way radios. Observers say Myanmar's military is trying to portray the election as unfair as a way to justify its coup in February. In August, the commission said it had confirmed more than 11.3 million irregularities, such as double registrations and the inclusion of unqualified voters. Next, Japan is one step closer to allowing businesses to relax strict coronavirus measures for those who test negative or are fully vaccinated. The government's expert panel gave the plan the green light on Tuesday. Japan's daily case counts have dropped dramatically since the summer surge, but the economy is still dealing with pandemic pressures. Now, under the program, people waiting to dine out in groups or attend an event would need to show proof of vaccination or a negative PCR test. The new measures would stay in place even if the virus surges again. Experts urge the government to consider suspending the program if hospitals come under strain.
The government will implement the program little by little. I think it is very important to evaluate its effects and, if necessary, to review the measures and set limits.
Omi stressed governments would control the program. They would monitor the number of reported infections and the conditions of the medical system. Moving now to Bangladesh, where authorities have approved the production and marketing of a generic oral drug to treat COVID-19. The original pill was developed by U.S. firms Merck and Ridgeback Biotherapeutics. The Directorate General of Drug Administration in Bangladesh announced last week it had authorized 8 pharmaceutical companies to make and sell the generic drug. Merck says its pill, Molnupiravir, cuts the risk of hospitalization or death from COVID-19 by about half. One of the companies, Beximco, said it's started production and will soon go to market. The authorities also said the pills would cost about $50 each. They say the drug will only be available by prescription and cannot be used by people under the age of 18. Patients will need to take 8 pills a day for 5 days. A counter-piracy mission being undertaken by Japan's self-defense forces off the coast of Somalia has been extended by 1 year. Japan began deploying destroyers and patrol aircraft in 2009 to guard commercial ships in the Gulf of Aden, north of Somalia. The current mission is due to end on Friday. The decision to extend the mission was made at a cabinet meeting on Tuesday. Government officials say fundamental problems in Somalia remain unresolved, including poverty that result in people taking to piracy. They also say commercial ships are still requesting to be escorted by the SDF vessels. The government has also decided to increase the number of personnel in the mission. The new members will assist with coordinating arrivals and departures between Djibouti, where the SDF personnel are based, and areas they operate in. They'll also help out in implementing anti-coronavirus measures. Stones spewed by an undersea volcano have been wreaking havoc in southern Japan for weeks. Now, researchers warn a large quantity could soon arrive in waters south of Tokyo. The pumice comes from an eruption in August, about 1,000 kilometers south of Japan's main island. Massive quantities have washed up around Okinawa and Amami in the southwest. Ferry services, fishing operations, and tourism have all taken a hit. Researchers at the Japan Agency for Marine Earth Science and Technology have released a new simulation. It suggests the stones will drift northward off the Pacific coast, but also reach the Izu Island chain south of Tokyo. Locals are worried about the potential impact.
If more stones come, it's concerning. We rely heavily on this ferry service to get to Tokyo.
More tourists have been coming to Izu-Oshima Island since the coronavirus state of emergency was lifted. But I wonder what kind of effect the stones will have.
The simulation also suggests some of the pumice around Okinawa will stay for some time depending on the wind. Authorities are testing ways to clear ports. They say diggers are effective on shore and boats with nets at sea. In other news, astronaut Hoshide Akihiko has spoken publicly for the first time after returning to Earth last week. He and his crew spent more than half a year in space.
Maybe 2 weeks out before we came back, I think we started to feel that, okay, this whole, fun trip is coming to an end.
Hoshide is the second Japanese to serve as a commander of the International Space Station. The crew conducted an array of experiments. Hoshide says he was especially interested in studying the impact of zero gravity on our sense of time. They flew to and from the ISS on a spacecraft made by U.S. private company SpaceX. Hoshide describes the trip as a milestone on the path toward commercial space flights. Shifting now to the weather, downpours have lashed the western U.S. and Canada, causing significant floods and landslides. Our meteorologist Jonathan O has the details in our World Weather Report.
Hello, we have been talking about the constant rain that has been moving into the Pacific Northwest due to the atmospheric river setup that's pretty much been pointing that moisture right into places like Seattle, into Washington State, Oregon, and also into British Columbia. We may be getting a little bit of a break coming up soon, but I want to show you what they've been dealing with in British Columbia. Take a look at this video as heavy rain forced evacuations on a flooded highway in the province over the weekend. Some areas there saw about 300 millimeters of rain in about 3 days that caused landslides. The rain, which continued into Monday, trapped about 100 people in their cars. About 2,000 had to be evacuated in a town just north of Vancouver. This high-pressure system is going to be coming in. It's going to be drying things out, which we really need that to be the case as we've been dealing with so much rain in the area. But it's going to be a bit cooler as well as we have this northerly flow coming in. So have those jackets nearby because you're going to need them. The snow, though, will be spraying toward the east. Winnipeg, you'll be seeing that same system now bringing snow into the area. Denver also seeing some snow as we go into Wednesday with a high of 6. Notice high of only 7 to 8 from Vancouver into Seattle. Down to the southeast, it's warm. It's going to be like that before we see a big surge of cold air coming in from the north and dropping those temperatures off. Across Japan, except for the Sea of Japan side of the country toward the north, we saw mainly fair weather across most of the country, though we do have a developing shear line south of Tokyo, so that's going to bring maybe some instability and some showers, maybe a little bit more cloud cover as we go into the day on Wednesday, but elsewhere, relatively calm weather, and we are going to be seeing temperatures that are going to be at least holding steady for this time of year. We're seeing dry weather also back toward the west, but showers down to the southern areas of China as we head into Wednesday, so be on the lookout for that. We're going to need some umbrellas in places like Taipei with a high of 24. Tokyo looking at 17 with partly cloudy skies as we go through the day. Hope you have a good day wherever you are.